This morning on our Greetings from the Garden State segment, Mike Ham joins us, and we're talking about Rick Barry, not the basketball player, though.
That's right, the Asbury Park based musician who does a lot of things in the area, runs a lot of programs for artists and all that, and an important dive bar in the Asbury Park community.
I mentioned the Rick Barry, of course. That's actually what he has on his Twitter handle, X, whatever you want to call it, is
Yeah.
Rick Barry, not the basketball player. And he's involved, as you mentioned, in a couple of different things, not just as a performer, which he does, and he's got some really nice music out, but he's integrally involved in the music scene in Asbury Park on kind of like a managerial level.
Yeah, so we recorded the episode at Georgie's bar in Asbury Park, which is on Fifth Street. I should have checked that before I did this, but Fifth Street in Asbury Park, right next to Mutiny Barbecue down there. It's been there for about 25 years. It is at its core a best described as a gay dive bar. So that is the venue that he helps run now for his wife's Uncle George, who's now a little bit too old to run it himself. So he kind of took over this space. And Rick grew up in that Asbury Park music scene, grew up playing at the Saint and venues like that, and talked about in the episode how important it was for him personally to have a venue like the Saint that would give space for emerging artists and all that. And I think now that he has a chance to help run Georgies, he is doing that same thing for artists in the LGBTQ community. That's we were there on a Monday night, and they feature artists in that community on Monday nights. And it just seems like a really great community place for people in that community, people visiting, just to kind of get like a feel for what it's all about.
I was looking at the Facebook page for George's, and they have a lot of different things going on. And you talk about the community aspect of it, whether it's a holiday toy drive or some other events that they have throughout the year. They're very, very tight with the community.
Yeah, I mean, you and I feel like on Jersey Magazine here, I've talked about Asbury Park in different facets for a while. And there's like certain places. I mean, Georgie's has been there for about 25 years. I mean, there's places that obviously predate Georgie's for sure, like the Pony and some of these other spots. But I do think that there is kind of this uh connection or like almost maybe a disconnection almost between old Asbury Park and new Asbury Park. And Georgie's definitely fits into that old Asbury Park vibe. And I do think that it's important. Those places are important for the community that helped, that was in Asbury Park 25 years ago, even further back than that, and kind of maintaining that connection to give people a place, to convene, to be a part of something, a community, a place to feel comfortable to be yourself and all that. So, I mean, it's a great spot. It's one of our favorites.
We've talked a lot about here on the Greetings from the Garden State segment about Asbury Park and the music scene and the LGBTQ community, both of which really helped foster this revitalization of Asbury Park, if you will. And it strikes me as, Georgie's is such an important part of both aspects of it, the music scene as well as the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like, you know, it's one of those things where Asbury Park, like we mentioned before, it has progressed to a point where it's like it's getting more popular. They're building a lot more stuff there, and more people are coming down there. And obviously, if you look back 25 years ago, even less than that in some cases, that certainly wasn't the case in the Asbury Park area. So while that's definitely a good thing, and bringing attention and awareness to what makes Asbury Park great, and a great place to visit, a great place to vacation, a great place to eat, drink, have fun, whatever. Places like Georgie's are certainly very important to maintaining that connection to the past, and again, the community that lives in that area, giving them a space to kind of come and convene. I think that's really the number one thing.
One of the other things that Rick is involved in, and it doesn't kick off again until June of 2025, is something that really unites the entire Asbury Park music scene. Tell us about that.
So that's Asbury Park Underground. Or Asbury Underground. That is coming back on June 21st, 2025. And essentially that is a music and art crawl. So they work with a lot of local musicians, venues, and by venues, they'll do stuff at breweries, bars, restaurants, bigger venues, obviously, too. And it gives people a chance to kind of walk around and just enjoy the scene, and you can go to any place really in Asbury Park on any given night, Sunday through Saturday, and find live music. But it's kind of cool to be able to connect with the local artists that live there that really, we talk about different communities that have helped maintain Asbury's, uh, you know, uh, revitalization. They've helped with the revitalization, but also maintained its reputation as a music scene. And they're still a big part of that. And being able to kind of just walk around and hit a bunch of different places and see a bunch of different artists and really kind of soak it all in over the course of a day is amazing. And that's something that I really admire about Rick and what he's been able to do is he is a one that gives space for communities. And I think like that's a big important thing that he does and is really important for the community of all the communities down in that area.
I looked at Asbury Underground, and when you think of Asbury Park and you think music, you think Stone Pony, you think Wonder Bar, and maybe a couple of other places, but they're all on the shore or a block off the beach, if you will.
Yeah.
But the Asbury Underground scene gets you further into Asbury Park and so
Mhm.
many cool venues that a lot of people may not be familiar with.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like when we first started going down to Asbury, and people would be like, "Oh, what else is there besides the pony or the stuff in the boardwalk?" I'm like, the boardwalk's great. It's got a lot of stuff. Obviously, the pony, the Wonder Bar, all that. Convention Hall has like some cool stuff in there now. But go down to Cookman Ave, go out to Main Street, go out to all these other places because there's great restaurants, there's great bars, there's breweries down there. Like the Asbury Park Distilling Company is one of my partners on a couple events. They're awesome. There's so much to kind of see and do and try, and I think that's really what makes the place special. Is like it's not just a boardwalk town. It's not just a summertime town. We go down in the off season all the time, and it's amazing because there's still people there. I mean, obviously it slows down quite a bit, but there's still people there. There's still stuff happening. There's still food. There's still things going on, and there's still music all the time, which I think is amazing.
Before I let you go, I have to ask you about the Juan Soto signing. I know you're a big baseball guy. What were your thoughts on it?
I mean, $765 million for a guy that can hit, and that's kind of it. Like I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the Mets, listen, the Mets needed to do it. I do think that it is a statement move to show that they're not going to be, second fiddle anymore. That was King Cohen flexing his checkbook right there. But I do think that it kind of signifies like a little bit of a shift in the power dynamic in the city. But I mean, the Yankees still have some work to do, and then the Mets do too. They're not a complete product now either, but the Yankees got to get some work done and get some other people in the lineup because that's always their issue. Like they get to the playoffs, they can't hit, and that was a guy that could hit, so it would have been nice to keep him. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah, they had him for a full year, batting right next to the MVP, and he himself, Soto, put up MVP caliber numbers. So if he didn't win with him, and you could almost, in some sense, Mike, feel the Yankees front office kind of exhaling. Okay, we made a pretty solid offer.
Yeah,
The Mets did this from, I mean, I don't think it's a great baseball contract, but you just
no,
mentioned Cohen kind of had to do this. It's a statement. Like,
yeah,
we're for real
we're
now. You got to
here
come to New
exactly.
York. You don't have to go to the Bronx. There is an alternative now for you. And, the money's going to be there, obviously, contractually, plus the other amenities that New York offers with endorsements and what have you. But you could just kind of feel the Yankees go, okay, plan B might not be so bad.
Yeah, and listen, they signed Max Fried. I like Max Fried. I think he's a good signing. I've always liked watching him pitch for the Braves. But I think I don't know lineup. They need to be able to hit. Like that's their biggest thing. They have too many guys in the lineup right now that get hurt. So they have to figure out get creative and figure out some ways that they can replace whatever it was, 42 home runs and 100 and something RBIs from one guy. So they got to figure that out and figure it out quick. I feel like.
And you can check out, as we were talking about Rick Barry, not the basketball player, coming up on greetings from thegardenstate.com in this week's episode. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thanks, Jim.